Spoiler warning.
It's that time of year again, everybody! Yep, 2025. What a year for Death Battle. Their first fully independent year. This year gave us some pretty high highs, but we do have a few duds in here. So, like always, let's go through every episode this year and see what I like about them, or something like that. I don't know. Let's dig in. I really hope starting the season off with a controversial episode isn't going to be a thing from now on, because this is one of those fights that was controversial before it even came out. Mostly because Kratos is already a controversial character in the Versus community. You see, Kratos is one of those characters. You see, every once in a while, a character comes along who people will do nothing but gush about how they're these uber-powerful beings that no other character in fiction can even stand a chance in hell against. And eventually what happens is that it causes people to do this counterculture thing where they act like the character was never strong and people always dunk on them, and unfortunately this fight came out during Kratos' dunk era. And of course, there's the whole thing this fight started about how if statements should count as feats, and it was just a whole mess. This was not a fun time to be a Death Battle fan. Everyone was yelling at each other. People couldn't stand the idea that they give Kratos actually powerful feats, things like that. But hey, maybe the fight will be so good that no matter who wins, we'll have something positive come out of this, right? Right? Yeah, this fight didn't end up being well received. Not just because Kratos won, but the fight scene itself was a massive source of contention. Me personally, my big issue is that nothing in this fight felt powerful. Like, how do you guys have someone countering an attack that can destroy the planet and have it feel weak? But it's not just that. Pretty much nothing in this fight felt powerful. There was just, like, no impact to anything. Also, this fight randomly had an alternate ending where Ashura won. I felt like they only did that because it was like an olive branch, because they knew this fight would be controversial and were trying to damage control. But given the reaction to this fight, it clearly didn't work. So this fight was underwhelming, and it featured a highly controversial character in a versus show winning. This season was not off to a great start. It made several people, including myself, worried about the future. But luckily, my fears were alleviated. Now this is a fight I wanted for years, and when it was announced, I kinda lost it. And oh man, was the wait worth it, because this fight was awesome. Now, both of these guys are well known for being level 10 cool guys, so of course some of that would rub off here, but holy crap, this fight put me on the edge of my seat when I first watched it. The dialogue, the attacks, the animation, oh man. Oh, and that death, holy cow. Yeah, you're gonna suffer from your sins. Oh no, how about you suffer for your sins? Oh, I don't know what else to say. This fight was just epic. See, I just used the word epic. Who even says epic anymore? I don't know. Let's move on before I completely revert back to 2013. Gotta be honest, this is this season's fight that just exists. Now, don't get me wrong, it's well animated, but like, I just don't care about these two. I've never seen either of these shows, so the whole thing about everyone going on about how, oh, it's super cathartic and stuff, yeah, that just didn't register for me. So this fight was just okay. The only thing I remember about it is how the Death Battle fandom got attached to a random background character. That was a weird moment, but whatever. I was not surprised to see this fight win the rematch poll. After all, this is one fight that's pretty much unanimously agreed to be outdated, given that it came out before Doom got a big revival. So for years, people have been wanting to see this fight done, but with Doomslayer now. And holy cow, this fight was cool. Yeah, I like it. Don't know what else I could add. It was just a good fight. Not my favorite of the season, but cool. But I guess I do have to address this fight's big controversy. How Master Chief was killed. And to be honest, I really, truly do not care. I was worried about this fight. Given what happened last time a Lantern fought a character who everyone hypes up in the power of, I was prepared for the worst, and any time in the fight Kyle seemed to be having an advantage, I was holding my breath thinking, well, this is it. I cannot handle more Green Lantern discourse. Just please tell me Gurren Lagann fans are calmer than Ben 10 fans. But then Simone won, and I calmed down. And afterwards, I was able to actually appreciate this fight. First off, this fight is gorgeous. Like, I cannot praise the animation enough. It makes good use of both characters' abilities, and it has them interacting in super creative ways. One of the biggest issues me and a lot of people have with Ben vs. Hal is that it was weirdly uncreative, despite featuring two characters known for creative fight scenes. But they definitely took that criticism to heart because holy crap. Also, the fist fight at the end, that was yeah. So yeah, from a fight I was scared of to one of my favorites of the season. Nice to see at least one Lantern got a good fight. Now this fight was just pure nostalgia. I grew up with both Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry, so seeing this fight took me right back to my childhood in a way. They really captured the energy of these two and nailed their humor very well. I genuinely laughed a fair few times in this fight. I do have one complaint though. Like everyone else pointed out, it was a kind of a cop-out to just get rid of most of Tom's lives in a single blow instead of it happening gradually. Also, unlike Scooby vs. Courage, it feels like they didn't do any truly crazy stuff both characters could do. It was weirdly tame for a cartoon fight. But still, I had a good time. And isn't that all that matters, really? This fight was good. I love the Spider-Verse inspired animation, and the whole 3D that looks like 2D thing was very visually appealing. Strangely, after this fight came out, it spawned memes about Deku hunting down street tier characters, and I'm gonna be honest, I genuinely cannot tell if these memes were made to make fun of him or if people were hyping him up. Because he's one of those characters where I can never tell what the general opinion on him is. But yeah, good fight. And hey, at least this time it didn't feature a character spamming the same move for most of the fight. Yeah, that's right, I'm looking at you. AKA the fight that caused actual genuine drama that escaped from the community. But there's plenty of videos about that. So, in a nutshell, you just need to know that some very terminally online person made an ass out of himself in an attempt to debunk this fight, and then just kept digging himself deeper. That's all you need to know, and all I will say. If you're really curious, just look up Hulk vs. Godzilla drama. Anyways, I like this fight quite a bit. It was very interesting to see how, in a fight between two characters famous for how destructive they are, it was ultimately Brains that won the battle, as Hulk defeated Godzilla not by punching him to death, but by coming up with a way to... Actually, I'm not sure what he did. Some people think he just banished Godzilla from the universe, some say he killed Godzilla on a multiversal scale. Either way, it's rather fitting, since that's usually how Godzilla's defeated anyway. Not by throwing giant monsters at him, but by people figuring out what to do and making up plans. Also, I love this fight's David versus Goliath motif. Sure, we've had fights featuring combatants who are different sizes, but this is the first time it's been really noticeable. Also, true story, when I watched this fight, I thought they were implying that Hulk also died. Like, I thought that whatever he did, like, separated him from Bruce Banner and that he died too, and yeah, yeah, let's just move on. That was a bit silly. The Big 200. Now, 50th episodes on this show tend to be some sort of significant matchup. Episode 50 was the Goku vs. Superman rematch, 100 was the Mario vs. Sonic rematch, 150 was Macho Man vs. Kool-Aid Man, which, while not very popular of a topic, was a matchup the crew had long been joking about. And for episode 200, we have a fight that's significant to the history of the show. You see, the creator of RWBY, Monty Oum, was famous for making fight animations, and these very animations were one of the biggest inspirations for Death Battle. In fact, before he passed away, Monty personally requested this very matchup. So because of that, it makes sense for this to be a milestone episode, since without him, there probably wouldn't be a death battle. But I think a lot of people are nervous about this matchup, given that there are two things here that don't have the best track record on the show. One, RWBY. First go around, super controversial episode, even the show itself would admit was poorly researched. Second go around, considered underwhelming, and it's often pointed to as having the worst death in the series. Not in a, oh, it's too gory and mean way, but rather, people were more so confused like, wait, that was the death? Third go around, often accused of having some of the worst characterization in the show that makes you wish it had the opposite verdict. Oh, and of course, of all three of these fights, you can't ignore how Death Battle and RWBY were owned by the same company, so many accuse these fights of being biased in some way, and Tifa vs. Yang having a literal promotion in it did not help in the slightest. And of course, we also have milestone episodes, because they also all had issues. Goku vs. Superman 2 has a good argument for being the worst episode objectively, since the whole thing is basically just a rant against people who didn't like the first episode. Mario vs. Sonic 2 is considered underwhelming, with many people actually finding it a step down from the previous one. And Kool-Aid Man vs. Macho Man is literally the least viewed episode of the show, and many criticized how the episode had a narrative that kept interrupting the fight. And plus, this is like the most niche matchup they've ever had. So, this fight had a lot to prove, and thankfully, it proved itself. Finally, a Ruby episode I can consider good. This episode just oozes passion. It's not the flashiest, most hardcore fight ever, but that's okay. This fight just screams love letter. It's a love letter to their former sister show, it's a love letter to the man who inspired them, it's a love letter to the fans for sticking by through thick and thin. It's almost melancholic in a way, and I find that beautiful. Wow, another live-action episode. And it's one that doesn't involve a former Robin. Sorry, Tim Drake. Anyways, this fight has easily the best choreography of the live-action episode so far. It genuinely felt like a scene from a movie. Although, this does bring up my biggest issue with this fight. I feel like the setup's a bit too long. There's about a good 3 minutes between the start of the animation and when they actually fight. Not to say interesting things don't happen. I mean, it is cool to see him kick vampire butt. And you know what? Screw random background lady. Vampire DJ is my favorite background character. You're a real king, and you will be missed. Luckily though, once the fight starts, it's all well and good. Well choreographed, and the rave music is just really good. So yeah, good fight, but it takes a bit too long to wind up, if you get what I mean. Before we talk about this one, I need to rant about something. This fandom kind of has a similar issue to the Smash Bros. Fandom, where if they don't recognize a character, they think it's a waste of slot. And can I just say, you are not the only person watching these things. These things are not always going to add who you want. They're going to add a bunch of characters, even ones you don't want. And you just need to learn to accept that. I accepted that a long time ago. I'm going to tell you something right now. I don't give a crap about a good 30% of the characters in this show, but you don't see me running to Reddit in order to cry about how Death Battle doesn't care about its fans because they're using characters I've never heard of. Can I have my Reddit gold now? Anyway, this fight was odd because basically nobody was talking about it before it came out. Like, it genuinely seemed like people were looking for any excuse not to talk about it. It's like anytime people started talking about it, boom, a new thing happened that caused people to take a winch away from it. Anyway, fight was good. It did that thing I like where one combatant is dead serious while the other's treating it like a game. Always nice to see that. It's also very fast-paced and combo-heavy, fitting considering Dante's Game of Origin. Overall, good episode, but I'm not as high on it as others are, but still, really good. AKA what was originally going to be the 200th episode, but it got delayed. But still a milestone episode, as it premiered 15 years after Boba Fett vs. Samus, so that's cool. Now, during the lead-up to this fight, I am going to be straight with you. I could not tell when people were being serious when they said they think Ash wins. You see, growing up, Ash was a punching bag on the internet. Everyone hated him, and they thought he was the worst thing about Pokemon. So, I'm going to be honest. During the lead up to this fight, I could never tell how serious people were when they were talking about Ash potentially winning. Anyways, what an episode. It's better than Pokemon vs. Digimon? That's hard to say. I mean, that fight was unnecessarily cruel and called Pokemon slaves. Well, this wasn't actually good. Well, this was actually good and lived up to more of the potential this kind of fight had. I don't know, guys. I'm stumped about which is better. Anyway, good episode. Made use of all the main things of the combatants. Most of the big boy mods on the teams got a chance to shine. And there's so many little references sprinkled throughout to both characters' franchises. It's so good. How does it compare to the last army fight? Well, I still prefer Bowser vs. Eggman, since while I am a Pokemon fan, I know jack about Yu-Gi-Oh! But meanwhile, I like both Sonic and Mario, so I was able to fully appreciate Bowser's Egg more. But this was still a great episode and a great way to end the season. Now, surprisingly, they didn't come out and say what the first fight of 2026 will be, but to be honest, after what the waiting period for Kratos vs. Azura was like, I'm relieved we don't have to deal with that again for 2 months. So far, we have 3 episodes that have been announced, but have yet to officially come out, so those will definitely take up some slots this year, oh yeah, I should also address Champions Island. You see, this year they had another community vote for the fans to pick an episode for the next season. Except this time, instead of picking matchups, they picked characters. The winner ended up being Jeets from Kamen Rider. Now, that sounds okay, right? Well, this whole thing was just a mess. Everybody was getting mad at each other all the time. Everyone was getting angry over what characters were getting picked to move on, and the fandom became insufferable during this event. Everybody keeps saying that the last two polls are like this too, but I'm genuinely wondering if that's correct. Anyway, Jeets won and he's fighting some girl from some franchise I've never heard of. Okay, fine. Well, that's this year's Batch of Death Battle episodes. We have 4 episodes we know are happening next year, and 8 episodes that have yet to be announced. That'll be fun to see. I've been Mr. G, signing off. Goodbye.